All right, well, in a normal election year, convention host cities would be fully geared up, ready to host hundreds of thousands of delegates, vendors, special guests, and, of course, swarms of media. It won't be like that this year, but really, what are we going to miss?
If it's the spectacle itself you'll miss, that's understandable.
I thought maybe it's an excuse. What do you mean, shut up?
But as I noted 4 years ago, really, there's no story arc.
There's no real news to cover.
But there are moments, of course, and crowds bring moments to life.
You know, they say the difference between a hockey mom and a pit bull? Lipstick.
And, of course, we've seen several stars born at conventions. Bill Clinton endorsing Michael Dukakis in 1988, and Mario Cuomo's keynote speech in 1984.
Mr. President, you ought to know that this nation is more a tale of two cities than it is just a shining city on a hill.
This year, no one will travel to Milwaukee for the Democratic convention, and only a few will be in Charlotte for the Republican convention.
Donald Trump called the 2012 Tampa convention the single most boring convention he'd ever seen.
Which is why the 2016 Republican convention included a lot more showbiz. And President Trump's speech then was fire and brimstone.
We will make America great again.
So while we might not have a balloon drop this year, coverage will be plenty. Basically the same 1 hour prime time the networks have offered in years past. And while virtual, I predict some virtual razzmatazz too.
All right, Jon, I know for a fact that you are just heartsick that you're not going to be able to attend the two conventions this year. This is just so disappointing to you.
Thank you, sweet Lord, for this blessing you've cast upon us. I mean, I suppose it's fun for the delegates, and there are people in this host cities make money off it, I guess. But I've never seen a bigger waste of time than the national political conventions. And useless, meaningless, almost totally devoid of news, and since 9/11, a burden of tens of millions of dollars on the American taxpayer to provide security for the stupid thing. So, no, I don't think anyone will miss it. I mean, if I suppose for the media, for the networks and the cable nets, it's a blow because normally, what else are you going to put on in August? I would suggest they'll be fine because there's plenty of other news going on. So I certainly will not miss it. I won't miss anything about it, including the horrible arena food that you're forced to eat unless you're a high roller and the gastric distress that results from that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can recover from that. I'm going to, I think that if you're home watching the convention on TV, it is a waste except for the 3 or 4 biggest speeches of the week. It's been many years since the convention's actually decided anything. But, another way to look at it is it's kind of a trade show for people in politics and media. And I always enjoyed covering them. I had the privilege of working for an alternative weekly, the Boston Phoenix, so I was not compelled to spend much time inside the hall. And there are always alternative events going on, protests, all kinds of different stories out there that if you wanted to go out and look for those stories, you could find them. For the viewers at home, no, they're not going to miss this one bit.
Well, it's interesting because I don't have the experience of ever covering a convention. I only have the viewer experience. And so the viewer experience, you turn it on, you let it run, you do other stuff, but you key in on so many interesting points. So many interesting points with interesting speeches or people messing up or who's in the crowd or all of that. Now, you won't have the crowd, but you will have the speeches. And I think because people are pretty much still at home, there's actually more attention that could be brought. So this is an opportunity, also an opportunity to do it a different way. I was pleased to hear that I think Fox and CBS and a few other people are actually having reporters on the ground to talk about the city cities they're in, both Milwaukee and Charlotte. And I think it's important to know that. We are in a time of a pandemic. We got voting issues. Those are two major cities for reporters to dive into and bring that to people who are viewing it beyond just a steady stream of speeches. So I actually am going to disagree with you guys and think it could be quite a valuable experience. I don't know if people would watch everything, but I think it should be on TV because everybody doesn't have good broadband or streaming. That's all I'm going to say.
I actually think there is something of a loss here. There are moments, I've covered some of these, not as many as John.
Or me.
Or you, and probably Dan, actually, put it on the table. There are moments that you see in person at conventions that stick with you for a long time and speak to something really powerful that's happening at that time in American politics. I think, Emily, you and I have talked about seeing Sarah Palin give her vice presidential acceptance speech in my hometown of St. Paul, Minnesota a few years back, and it was this electric moment. I still kind of get the hairs on the back of my neck pricking up when I think about it because there was this elemental connection between politician and crowd. And I'm not sure that comes through watching remotely for an audience member or for a journalist. One thing I would add to that, though, is I was a little apprehensive about heading to the Republican convention this year because we've had 4 years of the president demonizing journalists as the enemy of the people. And 4 years ago, I didn't get any problematic hostility from the Republicans I tried to interview. But I was really worried about what this year was going to be like because he's paved the way for some pretty nasty stuff. And I got to admit, I'm happy that we're not going to find out how bad it might have gotten. Yeah.
All right.